Hi, Taylor. Thank you for your presentation. I thought that was interesting. I did my presentation on the, well, I did my essay we had to do earlier on the GRU, which is the Russian Foreign Military Intelligence Program. And they're the ones who, they also did the illegals program. And yeah, it's just fascinating because this is what you think of when you think of a spy. You think of these like Russian sleeper agents who go into the United States and just act as normal, and then one day they're activated. Um, I did that is kind of a misnomer now that I'm thinking about it. Like most people, when they say sleeper agents, you assume like suddenly it's like the Winter Soldier if you've watched those movies where they hear a code phrase and they become a spy from then. But in reality, it's more of like a constant, like they're always spying and always gathering information. And it may not be overt, but I think the kind of slow moving and ingratiating themselves into, like, as you said, the political, social, and economic segments of American society, I think is arguably scarier than just, some supervillain fictional spy. Um, Let me see some questions I had. Your kind of wall of spies there, I thought was interesting. First, there was two people who had the same last name, both in their American identity and their true Russian identity. I'm wondering because finding a married couple, I think would be pretty rare to have them both agree to be a spy. So, like, I'm wondering, would you think that they got married like after um, they were sent on the mission, or were they already married before, and they just both happened to go into the SBR? And then another thing, this may sound a little racist, but I did note that like there were some definite non-white, like non-ethnic Russians in the in your wall of spies, and it is kind of a um, obviously it's a sore point for Americans, like us being racist. Um, and the Soviets, there was this one movie, I forget what it was, but it was very early, where it was like a circus, and um, there happened to be like an African American man performing in the circus, and the Americans in this movie were like super racist about it and very angry, and the oh so enlightened Soviets were um, welcoming of this black gentleman, and he it was just kind of a way to rub our nose in it, even though they weren't that much more and enlightened than we are. So, like, I guess my point is, do you think that they recruited um, these people um, in Russia, or do you think because it must have been, like you said, it takes years of training to be a good sleeper agent. Never mind the chance that they just turn around and turn to be like a double agent. So yeah, that's the presence of, I guess, non-white spies are interesting in this context. Um, and then uh, I am a little fuzzy as to when exactly this happened. I know it's post collapse of the Soviet Union, but having some more like hard dates, I think would be nice. Let's see, one final point. Um, I liked your comment about the continuity between the Soviet and the Russian intelligence services. I think that's true because like the Soviet Union did collapse, but the Soviet Union was made up of people, and it's not like the however many tens of thousands of people working in the KGB, for example. It's not as if they all died or if they all got their minds wiped. They had to wake up and find something to do the next day. And I think having, and especially with Vladimir Putin at the helm, because he considers the fall of the Soviet Union the worst event of the 20th century, and he is desperate to get that kind of power back. And with him leading the Russians do tend to engage in operations like this, where it was described in a book as having no like grand strategy beyond just making like beyond having some possible benefit to the Russians later, but there's no grand overarching strategy beyond that. And I think that's what the illegals program is. It's just something that will probably benefit the Russians at some point in the future, and they're willing to wait. Thank you for the presentation. I quite enjoyed that.